Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're going to be doing a weekly installment of our top meta decks, weekly meta breakdown, whatever you want to call it. This particular video is for the standard format. We're going to look at best of 1 and best of 3. If you do want to check out Historic or Alchemy, those will be separate videos. We do these every week and we look through the top performing deck lists on the MTG Arena ladder. And the way we get this data is from Untapped GG. It's a free-to-use companion tool. Runs alongside your Arena client, tracks your win rates, gives you deck suggestions based on your accumulated collection, and then aggregates all this data into what we see here in terms of win shares for specific deck configurations. If you do want to get started, the link is in the video description down below. As always, I do the decks that we do feature today. I'll post the deck lists into the video description as well, so if you want to import those to Arena, you can do so. And before we jump in, as always, if you do enjoy this type of meta content, if you can, drop a like and comment on the video, and if you haven't done so already, consider subscribing to the channel. All are free and easy ways to help out the channel. In addition to these weekly meta videos, we do a bunch of constructed content on the channel, so if you want to see these decks being played, pretty much always a Mythic level. You can kind of take a look there. We just competed in the Mythic Invitational Qualifier this past weekend. Happened to be limited and did sealed, but that video's up. We play a lot of kind of competitive, but usually kind of my shtick is trying to take tier 2 decks and place high Mythic with them. In any case, let's jump into it. So standard, a week of the 20th to 27th of March. As always, we're looking at the Platinum to Mythic rank. We have 240,000 games tracked for this week of standard best of 1. So we'll lead off with standard best of 1 and then transition into best of 3. The top performing deck of the week in best of 1 at 66.9% is Mono White Aggro. And what we're seeing this week is a transition back into the Wandering Emperor version. We saw some lists going off of the Wandering Emperor, moving to like Valor Stance in the main board, or Legion Angel. We're seeing the Emperor come back. And then the split of 3 drops, no Skyclave Apparition, just Brutal Cathars, Adeline, Spellbinders is Disruption. Your removal, you got the 2 portable holes as well as the Fateful Absence. This is the version I most closely played. I was on 2 Wandering Emperors, but overall I really like the Emperor in this list. It helps make a lot of your attacks and blocks kind of combat tricks, and it plays around traditional sweepers, stuff like that, gives you an edge. Lets you play something out at instant speed without overcommitting to the board. Interestingly though, only 1 creature land seems kind of low to me. I usually was on 2 at least of the Cave of the Frost Dragons. And I don't think it's wrong even playing 1 to 2 Crawling Barons in the list. I would probably go up on that just because you do want something in case of heavy removal matchups to have a way to kind of deal those last few points of damage. The next deck up is Selesnya Enchantments at 65% win rate. And usually the enchantment decks are kind of 2 shells. You have the more mid-rangey grind shells, and then the Naya Ruins style package with Showdown of the Skalds, Runeforge Champion, kind of going from there. I prefer the Runes version just based on my gameplay style. I've tried these in the past, and these versions feel a little bit slow against the mono white decks. But effectively, what you're trying to do is like Hallowed Haunting is your payoff card in the deck, lets you create a bunch of enchantments, a bunch of spirits based on the number of enchantments you cast, and then if you have 7 or more, they get all buffs. So you have a bunch of removal in the form of Circle of Confinement and Borrowed Time. Jukai Naturalist still gives you the cost reduction. You're playing Sagas in Michiko and Restoration of Eiganjo to get kind of different saga value. These can all be copied with Weaver of Harmony. You have Spirited Companion to draw you cards, and then Wedding Announcement for tokens and anthems, and then Katilda is kind of your big over-the-top lifelink. There's certain decks that just can't beat a Katilda. Like I said, I prefer the Runes version. I was playing something like this earlier in the set, but it seems like this one's doing a little bit better right now compared to the Runes version. I didn't pull up the Runes this week, but Naya Runes is at 60%. Paladin class and Valor Stance are kind of the tech for it right now. I've been playing it a lot in Alchemy. I think I'm like 70% win rate after about 100 or so games. I think it has a better... It's kind of weird. I think it's better suited in Alchemy, but also could be hated out more in Alchemy. The reason being it has a fair... It can have a fairly poor matchup into mono white because they have a lot of exile style removal. And then like Thalia kind of taxes, but in any case. Next deck up is Naya Humans, which is basically mono white splash Gruel for a couple extra cards. So you see the shell of the mono white deck in here. Kind of the same cards we see, but you get Minsk in here. And then you're playing for these powerful 4-drops, Halana and Elena, as well as Sigarda, Champion of Light. Sigarda gives you card advantage, gives you an Anthem. Halana gives you kind of buff to your team and gives haste. Something that's cool with this, you can see I'm missing 2 of these. So if I want to build this deck, I need 2 of these, and then these are my wildcard counts. So I'd have to use 2 of my 8 wildcards in order to play this particular deck. To kind of get a feel there. See, mono red aggro, another deck as an example I need 2 of. We saw this deck last week, but it's kind of a modify themed red-based aggro deck. So you have like Kumana to kind of buff your next creatures, Rabbit Battery that could give haste to things, Reinforced Ronin plays really nice with the Patchwork Automaton, and then you have removal and play with fire, Royal Eruption. Some Ogre Head Helm that gives you card advantage potentially, kind of a Bomat Courier-esque style card. Chandra, Dress to Kill. Love this card. Some Reckless Storm Seekers and Thundering Raijus played in with some Dens. Best creature land in my opinion. Yeah, this or the blue one. I still like this one the best. I like red-based decks. Then we have Esper Control. And this is kind of a deck. This one, so we've kind of seen 2 builds of these Esper Control decks. We've seen black-white mid-range, splash blue for some counter spells, and then we've seen these blue-white control decks, splash black for targeted removal and Kaido. This is the latter being blue-white control, so you got your Beholds, Memory Deluge, Wandering Emperor, Doomscar, Farewell, Devastating Mastery, just a whole bunch of Kit Kat and caboodles of removal. You got a Test of Talent, Sunset Revelry for life gain card advantage. You're really splashing black, like I said, in this list for March of the Wretched Sorrow. Gains you some life as well in this deck, which is nice. Some Vanishing versus targeted removal. We see the 2 best decks this week. Really the 3 to some extent are all pretty much mono-based decks. So going into Vanishing versus very effective. Kaido can just provide card advantage, cards filtering as well. Sorry. Been a little bit congested lately, so tea helps. One thing that's nice with Kaido, even if you don't have a thing to attack with, sometimes what happens in these control decks is you get the wrong half problem, where you're drawing your Test of Talents against mono white or your sweepers against another control deck. So this allows you to filter through your deck as well. Your win cons like Emperor, Hullbreaker Horror, Miria's Call, Hall of Storm Giants, Opponent's Boredom. Those are generally the win conditions. A deck we haven't seen in a while, Mono Green Aggro, coming in 58% win rate. So it's kind of the same shell that we've seen, but the card that we're getting in right now is Jugen Defends the Temple. So Saga, 3 mana mythic. Saga 1, you make a monk that can add mana. You put a 1/1 counter for Saga 2 on up to 2 creatures, then you flip it, and then it becomes a flying 2/2. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you may pay X. If you do, put X counters on that creature. As long as you have 5 or more modified creatures, this creature itself gets a +5/5 and trample boost, so it becomes a 7/7. Sorry. So you do have like Invoke the Ancients here that get copied from Chariots. Notably with this version, no Rangers class. So it lacks a bit of card advantage, but you're playing kind of some bigger, heavier hitters in this particular list. Still on the snow lands because of the Blizzard Brawl. So that's best of 1. Now we'll go to best of 3. So same time frame, 26,000 matches. So these aren't games, these are matches. So it could be up to 3. So you'd say 52 to 78,000 games played. And kind of just featuring some decks here. Azoria's Death and Taxes, kind of Azoria's Tempo. So it's got a mix of the mono white cards that you would normally see, but also mixing in some tempo cards. So you have like Fading Hope to bounce your opponent's stuff, Spell Pierce is Disruption, March of Swirling Mist to kind of phase out blockers, attackers, protect your stuff, get rid of their stuff. Spectral Sailor, Spectral Adversary, similar thing, tempoing out your opponent. But notably, this version gives you access to counter spells in the sideboard against like sweeper-based matchups, which helps. And then you just bring in more removal or disruption in terms of like Spellbinders, Cathars. This version here is also playing Kyodai, Soul of Kamigawa, Flash, Flying, that gives Indestructible. The last line of the Wooburg color is not really used in this deck, but it's really just another flash threat in addition to the Wanderer that can help protect your stuff from sweepers. You also get access to like Odawara, as well as Hall of the Storm Giants in this particular version. So we've seen this list, like a variation of this list in past standards, but this one's kind of updated with some cool new flash cards. Again, mono white aggro. This one's just built for best of 3. We see Redains in here. Notably, no 3 mana exile. All the exile effects, are in the side. And then like this version here, you see much heavier on the creature lines. I think configurations like this is probably a little bit better mana base wise. And then deck that we haven't seen in probably a hot minute, Temur Treasures, Temur Midrange. This version's at 61% win rate. So it's a Gruel mid-range deck. We're seeing Kiki Jiki, Fable the Mirror Breaker kind of in here to kind of smooth out your draws, stuff like that, helps you ramp up. You still have the explosive draws of like turn 3 Ren or Goldspan Dragon if you can get like Jaspara on 1, Magda on 2, play into your top 4 drops. With like Fable, you can make tokens of things that then could get copied with Chariot. So say you make a token of a Goldspan Dragon, you could then copy that token with the Eska's Chariot to get another copy of Goldspan Dragon, and you just kind of go off like that. It's pretty easy to splash in this deck. You have all your pathways to do so. And really you're playing this to get access to counter spells in the post-board games. This kind of I usually call this deck Wet Gruel, Moist Gruel, Mossy Gruel, something of that nature. And I'm just going to take a quick scan if anything else jumps out. Like we have Naya Ruins. This deck here, Selesnya Ramp, we featured last week. Another deck that's been doing pretty well. Just kind of like a mid-rangey shell. Play a bunch. Basically, you're trying to go 2 mana to 4 mana in some cases with 6 2-drop accelerants. And then you just take advantage of like your Sharn for like sacrifice decks, Eska's Chariot. Just kind of powerful effects like that. So yeah, I'll feature all these. I'll throw this one in there as well to get that all included. But that cues it up for this week's meta breakdown. Let me know in the comments what deck you're enjoying most in Standard. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great one and stay safe out there.